Hi guys, this is Ian here, and from today onwards we are going to start a new Python series which will not only cover the basic important Python topics but also the most important and advanced Python topics as well. We'll start by discussing the history of Python and how the name Python came to be, and then we'll move on to Python as a programming language. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, Python was created in 1989 by Guido van Rossum while he was working at an institute in Netherlands, and then he officially released it in 1991. The reason he named it Python was because he was very much inspired by a series which used to air on BBC in the early 1970s. The name of this series was Monty Python's Flying Circus. Since he was very much inspired by this series, so he decided to name this programming language Python. Now let's head over to Python as a programming language and discuss what it is. Now, Python is a high-level, general-purpose, dynamically typed programming language. But before we unravel these terms one by one, let's first understand what a program is. A program is a set of instructions or rules that you give to your computer to perform a certain task. Now, what do I mean by that? For example, you have an automatic washing machine at home, you put clothes in it, you put the powder in it, you set the timer and the temperature, and when the set time period is up, your clothes are washed, the job is done. Likewise, when you provide instructions to your computer, it takes in those instructions and then it performs the task that you want it to do. Now, let's discuss Python as a programming language. As we already discussed, Python is a high-level, general-purpose, dynamically typed programming language. So what we can do now is we can discuss these terms one by one. The first one that we have here is high-level programming language. Now, what do I mean by high-level programming language? A high-level programming language is that type of language which is easy to understand and easy to code and read. The reason is because the syntax being similar to a human spoken language, hence it is easy to understand and read. What happens in a high-level programming language is the code that you write is translated to bytecode, and then this bytecode is converted to the binary form. And this binary form is what the computer understands. So computer doesn't understand our code directly. Rather, what it does is it translates the code first into the byte code, and then it converts that byte code into the binary form which it understands, and then it carries out the task that we want it to do. Some examples of these high-level programming languages are C++, Python, JavaScript, PHP, and so on. Now, opposite to this, there are low-level programming languages where all these steps that we did are done by a compiler. But in the case of these high-level programming languages, these steps are done by the interpreter. In case of Python, these steps are done by the Python interpreter, so that we don't have to do these low-level steps by ourselves. Rather, the Python interpreter does this for us. But in case of low-level languages such as C, these steps are done by the compiler. So now let's move on to the other paradigm, which is general purpose, or Python as a general purpose programming language. Now, what do I mean by this? A general purpose programming language is that type of programming language which can almost be used in all fields of computer science. For example, we can use Python in web development, which is building websites. We can use Python in data science. We can use Python in data analytics. We can use Python in cryptography. We can use Python in building internet applications such as chat applications and chatbots. We can also use Python in building games. So Python can be used in web development, Python can also be used in game development, in cybersecurity such as cryptography, to build internet applications, we can also use Python in data science, and so on. So now let's discuss Python as a dynamically typed programming language. Now, what do I mean by dynamically typed programming language? Language like Python JavaScript, PHP, are known as dynamically typed programming language. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me just show you what I mean by giving you an example. Let's say I want to declare a variable named a variable, and now I want to assign a value to it. Let's say I assign a value of Ian to it within these double quotes. Now what if I want to print the output of this variable, which is a variable? What I can do is there's a function in Python that does this outputting of the result, which is known as print function. So I'll write print. Within these brackets I'll pass this variable as an argument, and then I'll save this file, and then I'll run this file to display the output. There are two ways we can do this. The first way we can do is write Python test, which is the name of the file, .py, and run it. So as you can see here, the value of this variable called a variable is Ian, but it's not working. Why? Print. Okay, what did we do? We did Python test.py, my bad. So apologies. So what I'll do is Python test1.py is not defined. A variable is not defined. A variable is not defined. Okay, a variable. Okay, there's a mistake in here. Okay, I'll save it again and then run it again. Okay, let me just clear it out. Python test1.py. As you can see here, the value of this variable called a variable is Ian. Now what if I want to display the type of data that I have stored in this variable called a variable? To do this, I will use another function in Python which is known as type function, which I can use here inside print function to display the type of data that I have stored in this variable called a variable. So I'll do print, then inside the brackets I'll do type, and inside of the brackets of this type function I can pass this variable as an argument, and then I'll save this file and run it again. test1.py. Now as you can see here, we have the value of this variable and we have the type of data that we have stored in this variable, which is a string. str stands for string. So what if I want to update the value of this variable? Can I do that? Yes, indeed, we can do this in Python without facing any errors. So we'll write this variable again, and now this time I will assign it a value of a different data type, such as 33, which is a number. So now I want to print the result of this variable. So I'll do print again and pass the variable inside the brackets, and then I'll save this file. But one more thing that I would like to do is print the type of data that I have stored in the newly updated variable. So type, I'll again store this file, save this file, and now I'll run it again. Okay, test.py. Okay, Python test.py. Okay, there's an error here, spelling mistake. Okay. Okay. There you go. The first time what we did is we assigned a value to it, which was Ian, and the type of that value, data type of that value, was string. Then we again updated the value of that variable, which is called a variable, and we assigned it a value of 33, which is of type int. Int stands for integer. Now these are the two different types of data that we stored in the same variable without getting any errors. The reason being the same, that the Python is a dynamically typed programming language where the interpreter of Python assigns the data type to the variable when we execute the code. In case of non-dynamically typed languages, which are statically typed languages, such as C, C++, and C++, Java, and others. In those cases, what you have to do, you have to declare the type of data that you want to store beforehand in order to avoid errors. And if you don't, you'll get errors. So it's important for you to declare the type of data beforehand in these statically typed languages to avoid any errors. But as we have seen, in case of dynamically typed languages, we don't have to beforehand declare the type of value or the data type to avoid any errors. Rather, the Python interpreter does this for us. So we don't have to worry about the type conversion or the data type assigning of the value of a variable. Now, there are other paradigms of Python programming language that we can't discuss here. The reason being, those terms or paradigms would be beyond the scope of this video, but we will discuss those in due time, and you don't have to worry about that. Okay, this is it for this video. I'll see you in the next one with another topic. But before you go, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'll see you in the next one.